I've been watching quite a few Christmas films recently.
Ho ho ho.
But not like your standard Christmas films. I think the only standard one I've watched is Home Alone.
Yeah.
But the others I've watched have kind of been more kind of like subversive and a bit, edgy. So one of them I watched was Bad Santa, which is one of my all-time favourite Christmas films. And then a Christmas film which people don't really think about as being a Christmas film.
No.
I don't really think of it as being a Christmas film, but there's Christmas elements to it.
Yeah.
And that's the film In Bruges. I don't know the director.
No.
I don't know the year it was released in.
2008.
Wow, very good. Well done.
Yeah.
All I know is that it stars Colin Farrell.
Colin Firth. Yes.
Colin Farrell, Brendan Gleeson, and Ralph Fiennes. And if you've not seen the film, it's fairly brilliant.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the most underrated films of all time.
Yeah.
Pretty bold claim, but that's just what it is. It's so it tells a story of two Irish hitmen who live in London, and after a job's gone disastrously wrong, they're forced to hide out in Bruges, which is a small medieval town in Belgium, for a couple of weeks while the boss cleans things up and lets the heat kind of die down. Your two characters are the Colin Farrell character, who is a very young, restless, arrogant, ultimately trying to find his place in the world, and Brendan Gleeson, who's like an older hitman.
Yeah.
Like he's seen it all, he's been through it all, and he's become quite detached and kind of cynical towards life. So he's looking forward to a holiday in Bruges. And at the start of the film, it's all about the two of them kind of like fit into Bruges and trying to like just forget about what happened to the two of them. Brendan Gleeson is trying to enjoy the sights of this medieval town, while Colin Farrell just thinks of it as like a shithole. He even says it's a shithole to a woman he goes on a date on with, who's lived in Bruges all her life.
Yeah.
Bruges looks very nice place. It's like a small little Belgian town in the middle of Belgium. It's basically like untouched by tourists.
Okay.
I'll point out because of the film, it's probably overrun by tourists. It's described as being like a fucking fairy tale by Ralph Fiennes in the film. And as the two kind of hang about in Bruges for a bit, you learn about what happened. And in spoilers, Colin Farrell was sent out to do his first hit on a priest. And he goes disastrously wrong because he shoots the priest in a confession box, but then as he's doing that he accidentally shoots and kills a child.
Yeah.
And because of that he's like depressed and he's taking drugs and he's drunk all the time and he's a complete fucking mess basically.
Yeah.
And the boss, who's played by Ralph Fiennes, who carries the character, he's deciding what to do with Colin Farrell. Ralph Fiennes ultimately concludes that like he's got to kill Colin Farrell because he fucking killed a child. That's fucking unacceptable. And he gets Brendan Gleeson to do it.
Yeah.
But Brendan Gleeson, even though he's like a cold, emotionless guy, he can't bring himself to do it, and he kind of sends Colin Farrell away. He says to Harry, come fucking get me, basically. I'm not going to do it. Through a series of circumstances, it all ends in a big bloody mess.
Yeah.
And it sounds like a really, really heavy, dark thriller. It's not. It's actually a comedy.
Yeah.
One of the best things about the film is the way it juxtaposes these really dark, grim, depressing elements with this really, really kind of black comedy humour. Yeah. It's probably one of the best black comedies of all time, I think.
Better than With Nail and I.
Oh, yeah. I really like With Nail and I, but this is probably better. It deals with really heady themes, but like it's a really funny film.
Okay.
And I can't think of any film quite like it. There's no equivalent to In Bruges.
No.
It's an interesting film because it raises questions about heaven and hell and purgatory.
Yeah.
The film is deeply. There's great amounts of religious iconography which run throughout the whole film.
Yeah.
There's the fact that Colin Farrell killed a priest. There's they go to this church which apparently has the dried blood of Jesus Christ in it, and Colin Farrell's like, do I have to touch it? And he's like, oh gosh, I don't have to fucking touch it. It's only the blood of fucking Jesus Christ. So there's lots of this kind of religious twinge to the film. It kind of soaks all the way throughout. And we go to an art gallery and we see a painting of Purgatory,
Yeah.
People stuck between heaven and hell while they decide whether to send them to heaven or to hell. All these kind of weird creatures that are like judging these people's souls, and that's actually visually referenced at the end of the film. So the whole film is about being stuck in purgatory. That's kind of the theme of the film.
Yeah.
Colin Farrell can't feel like he can live his life because he's murdered a child. Brendan Gleeson is emotionally detached. His wife was actually murdered by somebody. And the Ray Fiennes character, he's completely stuck in his little criminal business enterprise world. He's not able to live and to enjoy life. Which is why it's such an interesting contrast having it set in Bruges, because it is such a lively city full of vibrant and full of history and culture, and these two characters are just in an emotional rut.
Yeah.
It's also quite good because all the characters in some way or another are stuck in like a cultural purgatory. You've got Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson are both Irishmen, but they live in London, and now they're forced to live in Bruges, a place where they don't belong. You've got an American dwarf who's living in Bruges filming a movie.
Who plays him?
I don't know. It's not
Peter Dinklage.
It's not Peter Dinklage.
I assumed that he did play every American dwarf.
Yeah. You've got you've got loads of other kind of characters who are from different locations around Europe. But basically, the idea is that they don't belong in Bruges, so they're kind of stuck in some kind of middle ground. And what ultimately happens in the film is Colin Farrell all comes to a front when Colin Farrell's been sent away and Brendan Gleeson's said, come get me, Harry. And Colin Farrell, through a series of circumstances, ends up coming back to Bruges to see his kind of semi-ish girlfriend. And Brendan Gleeson's like, look, I know what you've got to do, Harry. I know you're going to kill him, but don't kill him. And he gives this great big speech to how he always respected Harry and all this kind of stuff, and Ray Fiennes is like, I can't fucking shoot you now, can I? So he says he just like shoots him in the leg.
Yeah.
And last moment, this snoop for Harry comes and basically tells him that Colin Farrell's back in town, and he's like, I'm gonna go kill him now. And then Brendan Gleeson, his last moment, climbs to the top of the tower and like throws himself off and commits suicide to basically distract him, so Colin Farrell can escape and get away.
Yeah.
I make it sound like a really dark, dour film, but it's not. It's really, really funny.
Yeah.
It's filled with so many like wonderful moments and just lots of dialogue and just really dark, black comedy. You find out that the dwarf is racist.
Yeah. They
all get high and take cocaine, and like the dwarf talks about if there was going to be like a war between the blacks and the whites eventually, and they ask you, okay, so what side of the enemy is going to fight on? I was like, fight on the side of the blacks, and all the ethnic minorities fight on the side of the blacks. And then that scene is undercut then, where Brendan Gleeson's like, well, what would I do, so and so? But my wife was black and she was murdered by somebody. How would you feel about that? Where would I stand in this great big war? And he's like, it's all been ambiguous, man. It's like it's perfect. That little scene kind of sums up the film really nicely. It's really funny, but it's dealing with these really like
heady, deep
themes. Yeah, about life and death and do our sins count for anything? What we do in life? Does it affect what happens to us after we die and this kind of stuff?
Yeah.
So.
It's a great film.
It's just a great film. It's just one of those films that you just sit and you just watch it, and you halfway through, you get towards the end of it, you're just like, oh yeah, this is just great.
Is it a 10 out of 10?
Easy 10 out of 10, yeah. It
better be if it's one of the most underrated films ever.
Yeah, one of the most underrated films of all time. It's so funny and it's so rich in details. You will notice something new every single time you watch it.
Yeah.
It'll make you appreciate Colin Farrell as an actor.
I thought he was great, and he's in Miami Vice. That's great.
Yeah, no, he is a bit of an underrated actor.
Well, it's because of his personal life, like he appeared in a porn film and stuff.
Yeah, but he's very good in the film.
Yeah.
Brendan Gleeson's great. Ray Fiennes is hilarious.
Yeah.
He plays like this old cockney like hitman. He's like, what the fuck do you think you're doing? What's going on? It's like you don't like Bruges. It's like a fucking fairy tale. It's a fairy tale, mate. And he's like really got like OCD.
Yeah.
There's a great part after Brendan Gleeson's killed himself, and Harry's chasing after Colin Farrell, and they go to the hotel that Colin Farrell's been staying in, It's like, okay, Harry, look, to tell you what, I'll jump out of the window and into the canal, and then you've got I will give you 10 seconds, then you can run out and try and shoot me. If you get me, fair play. If not, I've escaped. He's like, okay, how do I get to the fucking canal? Yeah, you turn left. What? My left or this left? And we go into like extreme details. He's kind of got like OCD about everything.
Yeah.
The best line of the film is where he gets news from Brendan Gleeson that he's not going to kill Colin Farrell. And he like smashes the phone to death, and like his kids are getting ready for Christmas. And when his wife comes in and she's like, "Is everything okay?" He's like, "No, it's not okay." It's like, "Well, stop getting angry about inanimate object." And he's like, "You're a fucking inanimate object." But his lawyer's like, I'm sorry I called you an inanimate object. Daddy's got to go now. It really is so funny in the film.
Yeah.
All three of them are really, really funny. And at the end of the film, ultimately, Colin Farrell is killed.
Yeah.
And at the end of the film, he's going for like a film set because the dwarf is like an American actor. And they're filming this kind of like he's filming like a Euro art house film.
Yeah.
But not a very good Euro art house film. You know, it's like in the dream, he's the dwarf that appears because every dream sequence has a dwarf in it.
Yeah. After David Lynch.
After David Lynch, yeah. And he's going to a scene where there's always kind of like medieval people like dressed up, so it was like weird animals and these weird creatures and people in medieval garb. And it is almost like that painting that we saw earlier on in the film. So at that point, you're like, is Colin Farrell, is his sins being weighed up? Did he do good in life? Has he redeemed himself, or hasn't he? And it kind of ends on a bit of a
ambiguous note.
Excellent. So it's funny, it's hilarious, it's dark, it's great performances, it's very, very funny. It's got some brilliant performances, great moments, and I want to book myself a trip to Bruges fairly soon because it looks like a really nice place.
Yeah.
So I would recommend you'd watch it. I think you'd love it.
I need to watch this film. Yeah.
Yeah, it is very good. Don't look at don't judge it on the awful DVD case though.
The one with an ice cream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes it look like a zany comedy.
Oh,
it's
right.
like the tagline is shoot first, sightsee later.
Yeah.
And the film is more the other way round. There's no action scenes until like the last 10 minutes of the film.
Yeah.
But it's more the other way round.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't think of any other film where they're able to talk about life and death and the afterlife and sins and purgatory and make it really funny and appealing and entertaining.
Yeah.
It's a perfect film. I've not seen the director's follow-up, Seven Psychopaths.
Yeah.
But I've heard mixed to okay things.
Yeah.
But I've got no interest in really seeing it. But you should try and watch In Bruges. It is
check it
good.
out.
Yeah, it is very, very good.
Well, the director's brother's film Calvary is meant to be.
That's also Brendan Gleeson.
That's meant to be a great film, like a better sequel.
Yeah,
because it's all about a priest who someone says they're going to kill him in 7 days.
Yeah.
So it sounds like exactly the same themes.
Yeah.
But yes,
probably not quite as funny.
No, I think that's more serious. I've not seen the film yet.
But apparently also the director was also a playwright.
Oh, I've heard that, yeah.
And it's quite rare that a playwright can make a transition to film.
Yeah.
Because they think of things, in terms of I've got my one set, and I was watching it and like Bruges is such a nice place, and the city almost becomes like a character
in itself.
But I could imagine it as being a play.
Yeah.
But he never comes across like that, which is to the film's benefit. But it feels like a kind of a small little picturesque world that we're in.
Yeah.
And you could imagine it as being a play, but the film works visually and so well you kind of just forget about it. It's never to the point where you can what I mean. We can tell someone who's always worked in plays has transitioned to making a film and they've not transitioned well.
Yeah.
Character exit stage left, character enter stage right, kind of thing. It's never like that.
No.
So yeah, it's chock-a-block filled with great themes, really funny moments, great character work, some brilliant acting, and an emotionally ambiguous ending, which will make you just want to rewatch it. So it's 10 out of 10.
Sounds great.
Yeah, a highly recommended film. It's very, 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 very good.